Dr. Arun Kumar Pati. He's from Institute of Physics, Bhubaneswar. He's a physicist notable for his research in quantum information and computation, the theory of geometric phases and its applications, and the foundations of quantum mechanics. He obtained his PhD from University of Bombay, and in 1989 he took up a position as a theoretical physicist in the Theoretical Physics Division of BARC Mumbai. From 1998 to 2000, he was a visiting scientist and an EPSRC fellow at University of Wales in UK. He is now a scientist at the Institute of Physics, Bhubaneswar. He is known for quantum no-deleting theorem. He also discovered the remote state preparation protocol in quantum information theory, which has been experimentally tested by several groups.
Okay, so thanks, Bhanugopal. So first let me thank Dr. Sahni for inviting me here. Yeah, so the title of the talk, as you see, is no-deleting and no-hiding theorems in quantum information. So this lecture will be slightly theoretical, So, so I did not know the audience will be so from different background, but hopefully you bear with me. So if you have any difficulty, you can ask anytime. Okay, so. So quantum information science, what we try to do is try to exploit basic features of quantum theory in information processing, and this provides fundamental new insight into nature of quantum world and physical processes. And quantum information utilizes resources that are not available in classical world. So using these resources, you can do many things, which can lead to technological applications like quantum computing, quantum teleportation, dense coding, remote state preparation, quantum communication, quantum cryptography, and many more things you can do. Okay, so this is the main big goal of quantum information. Just to for students, I will be going telling some basic things. Okay, so before going to main theorem, let us see what a classical and quantum bit is. Basically, classical bit you are all familiar. They can remain in either 0 or 1, but a quantum bit can remain not only in 0 or 1, but also in 0 and 1. Already you are familiar with this notion. So in fact, any two-state system like a photon or electron or any other quantum particle, you can think of as a qubit, like alpha 0 plus beta 1 is a state of a quantum bit. And once you realize this new way of storing information in a quantum bit, then this allows not only new ways of storing and processing information, but also you can do many new things which are not there in the classical world. Okay, so in quantum computing, what we are trying to do is basically trying to exploit this inherent parallelism which is there in these quantum states, and that leads to massive parallelism. Already you, I guess you are familiar with that notion. Like a single qubit can have access to both 0 and 1. If you have n qubit, they can access to all the 2 to the power n logical states simultaneously. Okay, and for some computational tasks like searching or factoring or even say like Deutsch algorithm, quantum computer can be much more efficient and powerful and can give better speed up compared to their classical counterparts. Okay, so that is the area people are exploring to discover new algorithms which can surpass the classical counterpart. Okay, so now let me tell a little bit about quantum theory. What this is? The whole of quantum mechanics is based on few postulates. Okay, so it is better to recall those postulates. First is that given a quantum system, you have a pure state psi, and that is a unit vector in a Hilbert space H. Okay, and physical observables are nothing but linear Hermitian operators which could satisfy some eigenvalue equation like a psi n equal to n psi n. And quantum evolution is linear. If you have a closed system that should evolve unitarily, like psi should go to psi prime, which is nothing but u of psi, and this unitary evolution preserves the purity of a state, and also it preserves the overlap of two different states. Okay, so and there is something to do with measurement, which is unavoidable. And if you have a quantum system which is arbitrary state like this, and once you do a measurement, then that disturbs the state. So if you get one of the outcomes, say psi n, then the state collapses to that particular eigenstate with the probability given by this mod c n square. Okay, and this is true only if you know the outcome. But if you don't know, then the outcome could be psi 1 or psi 2 or psi n or any one of those states. So the state after measurement will be described by a weighted average of all the possibilities, which is nothing but a mixed state. Okay, so notice the difference between this and this. If you know the outcome, you will get a pure state, but if you don't know the outcome after doing a measurement, then that will be a mixed state, because this is a statistical average of all possible pure states. Okay, and the last thing to remember is that if you are dealing with composite system, then the Hilbert space of the composite system is nothing but tensor product of individual Hilbert space. Like if n particle, then the Hilbert space will be H1 tensor H2 and so on. Okay. So these are the few postulates you need, and we can build up the whole quantum mechanics based on this. Okay. So, and there is the notion of quantum entanglement, which is one of the key resource or key concept in quantum information. Already you are familiar with the entanglement definition, but just to just for completeness, I briefly tell you here. Okay, so if you have a composite system like psi 1 2, and the state you can write as psi 1 tensor phi 2, then this is not an entangled state. But if you cannot write, then that is an entangled state. Okay, so that means given an entangled state, there is no way that you can associate a pure state. If you recall Professor Bennett's talk, then given two photons which are in an entangled state, then you cannot associate a pure state to individual photons. Okay, any general state like this in different Hilbert spaces, like first particle could be in a Hilbert space dimension n, this could be in a Hilbert space dimension m, then combined state you can write as something like this. But there is something called Schmidt decomposition theorem, which tells you that given such a state, you can always write like this. Instead of double sum, you have just single sum, and this sum will go from 1 to n, where n is the minimum of this or n or m. Okay, in this case, you assume that n is less than m, so this sum will go from 1 to n. And this comes handy when you do some calculation using these entangled states, and very useful theorem. And if you want to do ask what is the state of a single particle in this combined state, then what you do is you have to do a partial trace. That means you have to ignore the second particle if you want to know the state of first particle, and similarly if you want to know the state of second particle, you have to ignore the first particle. So do a partial trace over the remaining Hilbert space, and then you will get the state rho 1 and rho 2. And this rho 1, rho 2, they are no longer pure, they are mixed states. If you do a trace over this, you will get basically sum over I pi, ai ket and ai bra. Okay, that's what you will get, which is a mixed state. Okay, so that is another way to test that whether your original state is entangled or pure. If it is entangled or not entangled. If it is entangled, then after tracing out you will get a mixed state. If it is not entangled, then after tracing out you will get pure state. Okay, so this is a simple way to test whether your state was entangled or not. Okay, so any general two-state system like a 2-qubit, which is A00 plus B01 and C10 plus D11 is actually entangled state for any arbitrary complex number A, B, C, and D. But given such a state, as I said, you can always write a Schmidt decomposition, which will involve only two terms. So here you have 4 terms, but you can always write down using two sums, where these A1, B1, A2, B2, they are called Schmidt vectors, and these are nothing but Schmidt coefficients. Okay, and your familiar Bell state is nothing but one such state, which is nothing but phi plus phi minus given by this, and psi plus minus given by this, and they are maximal entangled states. And if you extend the notion for n qubit, you could say that your quantum computer, which consists of n qubit, could be like this, and for arbitrary amplitude Ci, this is an entangled state. Okay, so in fact, your quantum computer consisting of n quantum bits will be an entangled state. Okay, so okay, so when you deal with open system, then you can't describe the open system by a pure state. So you have to deal with the mixed states given by this kind of expressions. basically they are statistical average of pure states, where these weight factors are basically the probabilities with which you prepare the pure states, and they should sum up to 1. And the condition on this rho is that this should be positive and trace should be 1, and rho square is not equal to rho. So if this is satisfied, then that is a pure state. Okay, for pure state, you can always write rho square equal to rho. That is, you can write a state vector. But if not, then that is a mixed state. The notion of purification tells you that given any mixed state, you can think of that as a part of a larger Hilbert space, which could be in an entangled state psi. Okay, this is what exactly Professor Bennett was saying, that if you go to a church of the church of big Hilbert space, everything is pure. Okay, so if you go to bigger Hilbert space, you can always think of your rho as a part of a entangled state. That means if you trace over this part, you will get the state rho. Okay, so this is how you obtain the mixed state from a pure state. By the way, this purification is not unique. That means given density matrix like this, which is mixed state, there are infinite number of purification you can think of, because you can always multiply a u here, okay, and if you do a trace over this part, you will always get a same density matrix. Okay, so this is not unique from here to here. Okay. Okay, so now you may ask how this open system evolves. So there is a general theorem due to Krauss, which tells you that any state should evolve by a complete positive map like this. Okay, so rho should go to E of rho, which is nothing but this kind of sum over I, Ei, rho, I, Ei dagger, and these are nothing but the Krauss elements, and they should satisfy this identity. And the good thing about this is that even though your system is evolving non-unitarily, because these transformations are nothing but more general transformation which need not be unitary. Okay, but you can always think of this quantum operation like this completely positive map as a unitary evolution in a bigger Hilbert space. So given a rho which is undergoing transformation like this, you can always think of that this rho along with some ancilla is undergoing some unitary evolution, and then you trace over ancilla. Okay, then you will get this E of rho s. So finally everything is pure, everything is unitary in big Hilbert space. Okay, so what I am going to tell in remaining of my talk is that I will try to highlight some basic differences between classical and quantum information. Okay, that's what I am trying to do. So given a quantum state psi, okay, that not only carries quantum but also classical information. As you may know already, that a quantum state contains potentially vast amount of information which is inaccessible to an external observer, and this inaccessible information is quantum information. So what I mean here is the following, that given a quantum bit, okay, a single quantum bit, if you want to ask the question, how many bits do I need to specify that qubit? So potentially you need infinite amount of bits, okay, because on the Bloch sphere, if you imagine the point say here, and then you don't know the point where exactly it is lying on the Bloch sphere, then you need infinite number of classical bits to describe that. Okay, but if you want to extract some information from the quantum bit, you do a measurement, and measurement will give only two outcomes. So that will give only one classical bit. So amount of information that you can extract doing measurement is the accessible information, and this is classical. Okay. Okay. So given such a quantum state and quantum information, we are trying to understand in what way this differs from classical information. Okay, classical information we are familiar with, but given such a quantum bit or quantum state, how, in what way such quantum state differ, from the classical bits. So there are famous, the famous theorem is no-cloning theorem, which was discovered in 1982, which tells you that given a single quantum, you cannot make a copy. Okay, you can't design a quantum Xerox machine. Okay, unlike your classical information. So there is something called no flipping theorem also, and that tells you that given a quantum bit, you can't design a NOT gate for a complete unknown state. Like classical bit, you can design NOT gate. Given a 0, you can flip it, you can take to 1. Given a 1, you can flip to 0. Okay, just by applying a NOT gate. But given an arbitrary state psi, can you do psi orthogonal? or given psi orthogonal, can you do psi? Okay, can you transform it to psi? If you can do that, then you will call that you are able to design NOT gate, or you are able to flip it. But such a thing is not possible. Okay, and the other no-go theorem is that no deleting theorem, which I discovered in 2000, and also there is something no partial erasure, and last thing is that no hiding. So I will cover only this and these two. Remaining I won't have time. And these limitations tell what exactly you can do and you cannot do with quantum information. Okay, so when you want to devise or design a quantum computer, or want to design any quantum information processing device, you should know your abilities or your capabilities or your limitations, what exactly you are doing. Okay, so before going to no deleting theorem, let me tell you the no cloning theorem. Already you may be familiar with the proof, but this is really simple. So let me tell the proof for the students. Okay, so cloning means what you do. Basically, you are given a single quantum bit instead 0 and 1. Okay, and you know that if they are given as 0 and 1, okay, they carry classical information. That means given a single qubit in two orthogonal states, you could store a single bit of classical information. Okay, so 0 and 1 you can make a copy. So that is allowed. So 0, this is your blank state, this is your input. So 0 0, this A goes to 0 0 A 0, and here 1 0 A goes to 1 1 A. Sorry, this should have been A 1. Okay, so basically 0 0 and 1 0 goes to 0 0 0 and 1 1. So you are able to make a copy. That is fine. But if you want to do same thing for a arbitrary state psi 0 and A going to psi A psi, then you will see that this is not possible. Why is it not possible? Proof is just one line, because if you start with this psi 0 and this state of the machine itself, then you will see that this alpha 0 0 A plus beta 1 0 A, and now once this goes to the cloning machine, okay, because your machine is linear map, then that will follow this. Okay, so 0 0 A will go to 0 0 A 0, and here 1 0 A will go to 1 1 A 1. But what exactly you want is this psi and A psi. Okay, so this and this, there is no way that you can match. Okay, there is no way that you can satisfy this equation and this equation. Okay, that means your machine is not able to make a copy of an arbitrary state. So this no cloning theorem is really one of the key feature of quantum information, and the proof is really simple. Every student should understand this. Okay, so what this no deleting theorem trying to tell you is that trying to ask the following question: that given a unknown state like psi, and you are given not a single copy but two copy, psi and psi, can you delete one copy, that is psi A, can you take to psi 0 A psi? Okay, if you can do this, then you will say that you are able to delete. Okay, because you are able to do for all arbitrary state psi. Okay, given any state psi and the two copies, you can transform it to psi 0 and A of psi. Okay. Okay, so one thing you want to do is that you don't want that your quantum information should be hidden anywhere in the machine itself or any other part of the universe. But because if you want to keep it in your machine, then that is not really deletion, because you can recover the state from the machine itself. Okay. So what quantum mechanics is trying to tell you that given a two identical copies, you can't delete one copy and keep the other intact. Okay, so that is the content of the non-deleting theorem. The proof is also simple, but little bit few more steps than the no cloning theorem itself. So let us see how it goes. Okay, so what you know is that you can delete classical information. Okay, classically, if you are given two identical bits like 0 0 or 1 1, you can delete it. Okay, using your XOR operation or whatever you like. So similarly, you can also delete two identical qubit given in the state 0 0. Okay, 0 0 and 1 1 you can delete. That means you can take 0 0 A to 0 0 A 0, and 1 1 A you can take to 1 0 A 1. This is allowed. Okay, once you know this is allowed, then you see can you do same thing for an arbitrary state psi. Okay. Now you may ask what will happen if they are not identical. Okay, that you don't bother, because you want to delete only one copy from two identical copies. If your two copies are different or entangled, you don't worry. Okay, so if you say you don't worry, but you have to say something about what that means physically or mathematically. Okay, So we say that if two qubits are not identical or entangled, then the final state after transformation could be anything. So that we call some state phi. Okay, that's all. Okay, so if the two qubits are 0, 1 plus 1, 0, or in an entangled state, after passing through the machine, okay, you say that the final state is something, some normalized state phi. Okay, you don't worry about that. Okay, so now you will see that because of linear nature of the deleting transformation, the machine itself is not time reversible cloning. Okay. So the proof goes like this. Try you send two copies psi psi and A. Okay. Now if you just expand this out, basically you have alpha square 0 0, beta square 1 1, and alpha beta 0 1 plus 1 0 times A. Now you apply the transformation. Okay. Now this state is going inside the deleting machine. Okay. So what machine will do is machine will act linearly. So it will basically do the following transformation. It will do this. Okay. This and this and this. Okay. So using these three equations, you will see that the state that is going inside your deleting machine will give an output which is basically this should be alpha square. So alpha square, there is a typo error here. So alpha square 0 0 A will go to 0 0 A 0, okay, and beta square 1 1 A will go to beta square 1 0 A 1, and this part will go to square root of 2 alpha beta times phi, because that's what you have your in your definition. Okay. But what you want actually is basically psi 0 and A psi, and if you expand this out, basically alpha 0 plus beta 1 times 0 times this. So in general, there is no way that you can satisfy this and this. Okay, that means your actual and desired state that are you are looking for, they are different. That means you can't design a perfect deletion machine. So you fail to design a machine that you wanted. Okay, but if you force that this should be same or identical, then there is only one choice. Okay, and that choice is the following: that if phi is like this, 1 over root 2 0 0 A1 and plus 1 0 A0, and A psi is alpha A0 plus beta A1, then for this choice you can make these two identical. You can make this and this identical. Okay, but then that choice is not actual deletion, because that that option we don't allow. Okay, because if you see the state, this should normalize for all psi. Okay, that means for all alpha beta, if you normalize that this should be 1, then you see that A0 A1 should be orthogonal. But that means that your qubit which was getting deleted actually sitting here. Okay, that is sitting in the final state of the machine itself. Okay, that means what you are basically doing by this choice is basically you are swapping your qubit onto two-dimensional subspace of the ancilla. That is basically you are moving your quantum information from here to there. That's all you are doing, which is not deletion. Okay, because you can always recover the state from there on the machine itself. Okay, so if your machine is state is like this, you can always get your qubit from this state. Okay, so finally what is telling you the following, that because of the linear evolution of quantum mechanics or quantum theory, you are not able to really delete, but you can only move around the quantum information. This is the non-deleting theorem. Okay. In 2004, Joja came up with a stronger version of no-cloning theorem, and that tells you that to create a copy, so he asked the following question: given you can't make a copy, fine, that is fine, but what extra information you would need to make a copy? So that question he asked, and he found that to make an extra copy, you must provide the full information. That means you must import the information which already exists in some part of the world and bring it here. Okay, so you see there is something something common in the stronger no-cloning version and this no-deleting theorem, because this tells you that you can't make a copy. The only way to make a copy is you bring the information from some part of the world and put it here. Okay, and non-deleting theorem tells you that you can't delete. The only option is that you can move information from here to there. So if you want to delete from here, take it from here and put it there. That's all you can do. So only you can import and export information. You can't really create nor destroy. Okay. So, yeah.
What does that physically signify? You are creating a state which is blank.
Yeah.
That means it contains no information, or information is entirely randomized.
No information. No information. Because it's pure state. There is no randomization, no random state. Okay, state is pure. Okay.
So it means there is no state.
Yeah.
Blank state is
Blank
no.
state, yeah. Like analog to a blank paper, in a Xerox machine. Okay, you put some information, you put a blank paper, and you get 2 copies. So the quantum state that you talk about, blank state of a quantum, blank quantum state means basically no information. Okay, that is of your choice. You choose your blank state as 0 or 1, whatever you like. So that is basically up to your choice.
But I'm not sure that what does it physically signify, a blank state. What does it physically signify? A state is not.
No, physically physical significance is that state has no information about your original state. That's all. Okay.
So it's another state.
Yeah.
Which has no previous history, no memory
Yeah,
of
right.
previous.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, now I come to no hiding theorem, but before that, let me tell you about hiding classical information. What do you mean by that? Okay. Already yesterday you heard about one-time pad. That is one way, one example that one way of hiding classical information. So classically, what you can do is you can hide information in 2 ways. Okay. First, you can. So one option is that if I have some information in my computer, in my classical computer, I can move from here to your computer. Okay, and you can take that and go home. So that way I can hide my information from my computer, or I can encrypt the message and send it to somewhere else. Okay, and that is the way I can hide. So classical information can be hidden either using this or that, or maybe combination of these 2 ideas. Okay. So now you ask the following question: that can you do same thing for quantum information? That is, given a quantum bit psi, can you hide in same way? Okay, that is, can you hide by encrypting or by moving? What we will find is that there is only one option available. That is, you can only move or cannot encrypt in a specific way. So that I will explain what exactly that means. And moreover, if you recall the example that Professor Bennett was talking yesterday, so we are trying to, he gave the example of one-time pad, also quantum teleportation, and then he was trying to say about the analogy between one-time pad and teleportation, but this analogy is not exact. Okay, so why it not exact? That is because of the fundamental this no hiding theorem, as you will see towards the end of the talk. Okay, so the one-time pad is nothing but the Varnum cipher, which is basically the following: that Alice encodes a message M using a random n-bit key. That is, she adds the message with the random bit. This is nothing but the addition modulo 2, and then sends the encrypted message C to Bob. Okay, and then Bob has the key, same key K. Okay, and then he can retrieve the original message by again doing same operation, addition modulo 2. Okay, C addition K will give you the original message M. Okay, so this is how the one-time pad works actually. Now you may wonder, after Alice encodes the message, okay, the encoded bit string contains no information, and nor is the key. Okay, key random, and this is also random. So where is the missing information? Okay, so the missing information is actually residing in the correlation between 2 strings. Okay, so neither the encoded message nor the key has the original information, but the correlation between these 2 strings, okay, that has information, or information actually hiding there. Okay. Now, can you do same thing? Can you design a quantum analog of that? That is, can you encode a quantum bit into the correlation between 2 subsystems such that individual subsystem have no information, like this one-time pad? Okay. And the no hiding theorem will tell you that this is not true. Okay, in general. For example, if you think of say single qubit alpha 0 plus beta 1, if you want to encode into a 2 qubit state like alpha phi plus plus I beta say phi minus, where phi plus phi minus are orthogonal your Bell states, then you will see that if you look at the individual system by tracing one part, then that will contain some information about alpha and beta. Okay, so but this is really not possible. That is what is surprising about this theorem. See, your original system is alpha 0 plus beta 1. Fine. So, okay. So the statement I will make more precise. So the question is, okay, can you hide quantum information in same way like classical information? Okay, so the no hiding theorem will tell you that if the original information is missing, okay, then it must move to somewhere else, and it can't be hidden in the correlation. When I say correlation, I say bipartite correlation, okay, between this and that. And this no hiding theorem will have application in state randomization, quantum teleportation, and also any process leading to thermalization and even black hole information loss paradox, and many more possibly. But I will highlight these few things. Okay, so first let me define what I mean by hiding a quantum state. Okay, so if I have an arbitrary state psi and something happened to the system, okay, and in the end your state, which is psi, I write in the density matrix language, okay, because this is a pure state, I can write a pure density matrix rho. So something happens to this original system, and in the end you get a mixed state sigma, okay. And if the mixed state sigma is a fixed state, okay, what I mean by fixed state, that is sigma is independent of psi, okay. That means any information about psi, all the information about psi is missing from the sigma, okay. So suppose psi is a qubit, alpha 0 plus beta 1. Then sigma, if it is a I by 2, okay, that means I take a pure state and I randomize it completely, okay. I get in the end I by 2, which is completely random state. Then I will say that such a process will be a hiding process, okay. In fact, I don't restrict the sigma to be I by 2, it could be any mixed state. The only restriction is that this is a fixed for all psi, okay. That means whatever your psi is, finally that psi is gone, okay. So you have a quantum system, your quantum computer, something happens to a system, okay. In the end, nothing is there, okay. Some fixed state is there, but information is missing from that, okay. If that such a process would happen, then you will call that hiding process, okay. Now, what you want to do is you want to ask the following question, that if such a thing happens, then where is the missing information, okay. So that you can quantify if you go to a bigger Hilbert space. Now take an arbitrary input psi and unitarily encode into a bigger Hilbert space. So psi goes to psi, which is bigger Hilbert space, state in the big Hilbert space, and then if you trace over this A, you will get the sigma, okay, the fixed state. Okay, so already I said the example. So suppose you have a quantum computer like n qubit quantum computer, and you are in the middle of some computation, like you are doing say search or Grover or source algorithm, whatever you like, and you start with 0 0 0 and you do some steps, you are in some intermediate state, that could be an entangled state. Now due to some physical interaction with the external world, quantum computer loses its purity and becomes a complete thermal state, for example, Then you may ask, where is the missing information, okay. So the no hiding theorem will tell you where is that missing information is residing, okay. So you will find that if your quantum computer is completely decohering and getting to a mixed thermal state, then that is going and sitting in the rest of the world, okay, and it is not getting entangled with this and rest. Okay, so this is the precise statement. So let psi is the input state, and that getting mapped to a state in a bigger Hilbert space with psi as rho input. Now if rho input getting mapped to sigma, which is fixed state like sum over k p k k k, with sigma fixed for all rho, that is this p case has no information about psi, then psi should be of this type, okay. Psi should be written like this, that is sum over k square root of p k k and tensor with q k, tensor with psi. For the time being, forget about the zeros, because that is just to match the dimension. So what this is telling me that the information which is missing from the input psi, okay, that is simply going and sitting here, because in the end your system is this, which is in a mixed state. The psi which is going from here and missing from here, going simply sitting in the rest of the Hilbert space here, and this is no entanglement with this and that, okay, because this is just factoring out. You can take out psi from here if you like, okay. So psi is not getting entangled with this, it is simply factoring out and sitting here in the remainder of the Hilbert space. And this no hiding theorem is also robust to imperfection in the sense that I mean if the physical process is taking more of information and making the heading process smooth, then slowly it will appear in the remainder of the Hilbert space. So that is also you can, I mean that part also you can prove. Okay, so proof goes like this. That is why I told this the Schmidt decomposition theorem, because I need that. Okay, and also I told that any physical process you can imagine as a linear and unitary process in a bigger Hilbert space, and that unitarity allows you to map pure state to pure state. Okay. Once you realize that, then your final map, okay, so before going to this step, I will just write down how this map will look like. I mean, if you map the psi to say big psi, how the big psi will look like, because the big psi consisting of the system and the rest of the universe. Okay, that is bipartite system, and you can have a Schmidt decomposition for that. So that is nothing but given by the Schmidt decomposition theorem, which is basically sum over k, this square root of pk tensor with ak. Okay, this is exactly for any bipartite system you do. Okay, nothing greatness about writing this. This is just your standard thing. Okay, the proof basically consists of the following step: that trying to figure out how the ancilla state ak depends on psi. See, the whole proof of the no-heading theorem is trying to figure out the nature of the dependence of the ancilla states ak on psi. In what way they could depend on psi. Okay, that is the whole content of the no-heading theorem. And as you know, these pk's are basically non-zero eigenvalues of the sigma, and they are the eigenvectors. Okay, and also called Schmidt vectors. And similarly, these are orthonormal basis for the ancilla state. So now we are going to use only two inputs, that is linearity and unitarity, nothing else. Okay, which are the key ingredient of quantum mechanics or any quantum theory. If you want to have, because you must respect these two things. So physical nature of hiding process places a restriction on this ak psi. Okay, so by linear nature of the ancilla, by linearity of the quantum evolution, the ancilla will consist of an orthonormal set of states, even for superposition states. Like if your psi is like this, sum over n Cn psi n, then ak psi will be of this type, sum over n Cn ak psi n. This is just because of linearity. Now you see, so what is the motivation here? As I told, motivation is trying to figure out how the ak psi will depend on psi. That's all we are doing. Okay, and for that we need few steps. Okay, and those steps will be motivated by the linearity and unitarity nature of the quantum mechanics. That's all. Okay, now think of two orthonormal states like al psi and ak psi for L not equal to k. Because this is orthonormal, this should be 0. Okay, but then you know that al psi should be like this. So if you plug it here, you will see that you have sum over n m not equal to m, n not equal to m, and this term should be 0. But these are non-zero, so you must have this should be this ak psi n, al psi n, psi m should be orthonormal. Okay, for each k, l, n, and m. Okay, that means ak psi n, al, psi m must be something delta k, l, and delta n m. Okay, they must be orthonormal. Okay, once you realize that, and then you can say that given any orthonormal basis for the system, psi n spanning the input state, you can define the orthonormal set of states akn, which is basically ak psi n, and then by unitary nature of this map, given any orthonormal set, you can always map to another orthonormal set, because unitary evolution or unitary transformation allows you to write any orthonormal set of vectors to another orthonormal set of vectors. Okay, that you are free to do that. Now once you realize that ak psi n must be orthonormal, okay, then you can write the akn as qn tensor to psi n, and you add extra zeros just to match the dimension. But if you for the time being, if you want to forget the zeros, it is fine also. So basically your akn, your ancilla or rest of the universe, you can think of as itself as a composite system. So you can write this akn as qk tensor to psi n. And as you can see, once you write in this way, automatically orthonormality satisfied. Okay, that AKN should be AKN and ALM should be orthonormal. Okay, that is satisfied here. Okay, now what? Now basically again plug this that expression. Okay, this plug this expression here, then you will see how this depends on psi. Okay, so again use your linearity of the evolution. So AK psi is basically AK sum over n Cn psi n, that is nothing but sum over n Cn AK of psi n, but AK psi n you know that basically consisting of this kind of terms. So sum over n Cn Qk tensor with psi n. Now you can take this inside. Okay, so basically that is nothing but Qk tensor with sum over n Cn psi n, that is nothing but your original psi. Okay, your psi was sum over n Cn psi n. Okay, so you see that AK psi is basically Qk tensor with psi, and the extra zero psi setting just to make dimension equal, but don't worry about that part. So under this mapping, your final state, which was sum over k square root of pkk tensor with Qk tensor with psi. So this is the final expression that you get using just two inputs, that is linear evolution and unitary evolution. That's all. Okay. So your information which was missing from the original system. Okay, from here it is simply going and sitting here. Okay. Okay. So that is the theorem. That is the proof of the theorem. So now you figure out the implication of this theorem. Basically, by looking at this final expression, what you say? What can you say? You can say that the information which is missing from here, okay, is going and sitting here, the remainder of the Hilbert space, and moreover, this psi is not getting entangled with this part, because you can take the psi and go home. I mean, if you like. Okay. So just to tell you that this is just sitting in a non-entangled form. This part. Okay. So since you can swap psi with any other state in the ancilla or rest of the universe, the quantum information which is missing or which is encoded globally is in fact encoded entirely within the ancilla. Okay. So no information about psi is encoded in system and ancilla correlation, which I just told, nor in fact in system-system correlation. Okay. So the moral of this no-hiding theorem is that if the original information is missing, then it must be moved to the remainder of the Hilbert space, and it can't be hidden in the correlation. So that is your no-hiding theorem. Okay, so I don't know how much time I have. Okay, so maybe I skip this imperfect hiding. This you can also prove that this no-hiding theorem is robust to imperfection. That is, if you, let me tell you the basic idea here. You may ask, okay, so initially what you did is you tried to investigate what happened to the system if it is just a single system. Okay, what if it could be entangled state? What could happen? Okay, what could happen to an entangled state? I mean, given such an entangled state like this, if something happened to this part, okay, can the no-hiding theorem still satisfied? And the answer is yes, still you can satisfy, but I will not go into detail of the proof. Okay, so now I will tell you some examples that are more illustrative. So first example is randomization. Okay, so this is a process where a pure state like psi go to I by d. So if psi is a state in d-dimensional Hilbert space, then this kind of map will take to I by 2, where this is a complete random state. Okay, and this particular map satisfies your criteria of the hiding process. So then this is an example of your hiding map. Okay, for example, if you are given a qubit, you know that you can randomize if you apply with these operations identity sigma x, sigma y, sigma z. If you apply this with all equal weight 1/4, then you will see that given any arbitrary state psi, you can get I by 2. This is exactly what happens in teleportation. For example, in teleportation, when you do the Bell measurement but don't send the classical outcome, the state could be any one of the possible states, So Bob doesn't know what to apply. So for him, the state will be 1/4 identity psi plus 1/4 sigma x psi sigma x and so on. So that state is nothing but I by 2. Okay. So without classical communication, the state of Bob's particle is completely random. There is no information about the original state. Okay. So exact randomization requires an ancilla of dimension at least d square. Now if you see the enlarged Hilbert space, the missing information will be in the ancilla up to local unitary operation. So this freedom is there, but you will always locate, I mean you will be able to locate the information which is missing from this part. Okay. And as you can see here, if you look at the unitary version of this the randomizing map, okay, you can convince yourself that if you attach a 4-dimensional ancilla like a 2-qubit, okay, as I said, ancilla could be could be a composite system itself. Okay, so attach a ancilla which is a 2-qubit system, and your psi and ancilla evolve unitarily. So that map is given by this. So half sigma sum over mu sigma mu psi and a mu. Your initial state A you choose as equal superposition of all the orthogonal states. So this mu go from 0 to 3. So A0 is like 0 0, A1 is like 0 1, and A2 is like 1 0, and A3 is like 0 1 1. Okay. Now if you apply this unitary operation sigma mu tensor this mu, you will see that you do get such a transformation, and if you do a partial trace over the ancilla, you will get I by 2. Okay. For students, you can convince yourself that you do get a randomizing map after this unitary evolution. Okay. Now you may ask, where is this missing information? If psi is missing from here, where it is sitting? Okay. It is basically you can do few more steps and you convince yourself that the psi which is missing from here is actually going in sitting here in the ancilla. Okay. In that part. So that is also given here. So the claim is that by doing unitary operation on the ancilla Hilbert space alone, we can find the missing information. Okay, that is, this is your final state in big Hilbert space. Now, if you do this following unitary operation, which is basically control knot on 2 and 3, and then Hadamard tensor with identity, and then again followed by control knot between 2 and 3. If you do it here, you will see that this psi is simply sitting there. So if you apply V23 drag over here, this is identity. So basically, the psi which is missing from here is simply sitting there. Okay. So this is in accordance with your Noah-Harding theorem that if something is missing from here, it must appear there. And also you can do, I mean you can test this Noah-Harding theorem in quantum teleportation also. In teleportation, what happens is in standard protocol, as you already know, so you have the input and Bell state, then you can decompose like this, and then after doing Bell measurement and sending classical communication, then Bob can get the state psi. Okay. So, but if you want to apply the Noah-Harding theorem, you have to go to Church of big Hilbert space. That is, you have to describe the unitary teleportation using unitary process. That is, without Bell measurement, without classical message, you have to describe the teleportation using unitary evolution and sending quantum message, not classical message. That you can do, and that was done by Brownstein in 1996. So what you do is, given this EPR pair and single qubit, attach an ancilla, okay, 2 qubit state, do unitary operation, send the quantum particle, the ancilla state. Again, Bob will do unitary operation, and then he will get the state psi. So there is no Bell measurement, no classical communication. So Bell measurement is replaced by unitary evolution, and classical message by quantum message, and then he will get the state psi. So in this version, the equation looks like this. Okay. Now, individually, if you look at this, and this, they are all mixed, all random. Okay. So if you, for example, if you trace this part, the state of this particle is I by 4, and this is also I by 4, and so on. Okay. But if you look at the remaining subsystem, you will find the missing information. So the key result can be recovered, the Noah-Harding theorem can be recovered, or you can check yourself by rewriting the teleportation using the bipartite system. So if you look at the say Bob Hilbert space and the message Hilbert space, the missing information from from LSS subsystem is simply sitting there. Okay, one can also convince here teleportation process. And yeah, now I should now tell why the one-time paired and no hiding theorem, teleportation, no direct analog or no exact analogy, because the information, if it is missing from here, it is not sitting in the correlation. Whereas in one-time paired, the information which is missing from original is sitting in the correlation between the message and the key. Whereas here it is not so. So that is the main difference, or the fundamental difference between the one-time paired and this teleportation. That is why the analogy is not complete; it's partial analogy. Okay, so time is over. 5 minutes. Okay. Yeah, and similar thing you can do also in thermalization. For example, when you want to erase a classical bit, as you already know from yesterday stuff, that you can do only by throwing some entropy or dumping entropy of k log 2 if you want to erase a single bit. Okay, and that has given rise to the resolution of Maxwell's lemon by Bennett, and and that has many implications. And you can also convince yourself that why erasure is irreversible, because if you want to erase psi and phi, psi go to 0 for all psi, you cannot do by unitary process, because if you can do, then you get a contradiction, because psi go to 0 and phi goes to 0, then this should satisfy the overlap, that should be 1, but this is non-orthogonal, this cannot be 1, so you get a contradiction. Okay, so by reversible process you can't erase information. Okay, so this no hiding theorem tells you that so it is in some sense generalization of Landauer's erasure, because it provides insight into thermodynamic reasoning, and the nature of the information hiding also gives extra insight or new insight into the nature of the thermalization process itself. So for example, one can replace an input output in ancilla using thermodynamic language like initial system, final system, and environment, and one can generalize this notion to this context also. So in case of single system, an environment, as the system thermalizes, it contrasts to a thermal distribution independent of the input or initial description, and perfect hiding implies complete thermalization, but this kind of imperfect hiding may tell you how the system is approaching towards, say, equilibrium state. So in either case, either this or that, as the system evolves and vanishes from one subspace, it must appear in the remainder of the Hilbert space. That is the main essence. And this also has application in black hole information loss paradox. So this is also a situation or one example of the hiding map. Like if you throw a pure state into a black hole, you get a mixed state, which is a thermal state. So you may ask, where is the missing information? Okay. So in this context also you can apply this no hiding theorem, and in fact there have been several proposals in the past to resolve this, but there is no resolution, and no hiding theorem is not trying to resolve, but trying to rule out certain option. But for example, people have been saying that the missing information could be like this option is saying that the information which is missing from black hole could be hidden in the correlation between the quanta emitted early and the quanta emitted later on, or it could be hidden in the correlation between the Hawking radiation and inside state of black hole. So these two options are ruled out by the no hiding theorem. So in this formulation, you would say that the infalling matter would correspond to subsystem I, and outgoing Hawking radiation could be, say, system subsystem O, and then no hiding theorem implies that no information is carried either within the outgoing or in the correlation between outgoing and anything else. Okay. So this resolution or rejection is based only on the two assumptions, this unitarity and Hawking's analysis. Okay. Yeah. So this no hiding theorem rigorously rules out that the information which escapes from black hole is nevertheless inaccessible as it is hidden in the correlation between semi-classical Hawking radiation and black hole internal state. And this provides a criteria to test any resolution. Even in future, if someone try to resolve, they must respect this no hiding theorem. Okay, to summarize, what we did is try to focus, try to highlight that quantum information is basically or fundamentally different from classical information. So, unlike classical information, copying, deleting, hiding in the correlation are not possible in quantum mechanics or in quantum world, and the no hiding theorem provides new insight into different laws governing classical and quantum information. So, the moral of the whole lecture is the following, that whenever information disappears from your part or your system, it moves to somewhere else and remains there. Okay. So, with this I end my talk. There are few references for this talk. Okay.
Thank you.